The final payment deadline was closing in, and for perhaps the first time in his adult life, the man who had conquered mountains, winters, and thousands of miles on horseback found himself cornered by something far more complex than the wilderness. Piece by piece, minute by minute, he would say whenever challenges mounted. That mindset had carried him through snowstorms, crop failures, and brutal Appalachian winters. But this time, the enemy was not nature, it was paperwork, regulations, and a modern system he had spent decades trying to live without. To millions of viewers, Eustace Conway was more than a television personality. On the History Channel's hit series Mountain Men, he became a symbol of rugged independence. Audiences watched him forge iron in his blacksmith shop, tan deer hides, build cabins from raw timber, and teach young apprentices the skills of early American pioneers. He seemed unshakable, a man untouched by the pressures of the modern world. But behind the scenes, storm clouds were gathering. Born on September 15, 1961, in South Carolina, Eustace Conway did not grow up in isolation. His father, Eustace Robinson Conway III, was a chemical engineer who worked in the corporate world. His mother, Karen Conway, came from a respected and established family. Their home life was stable, comfortable, and thoroughly modern. Nothing about his upbringing suggested he would one day abandon electricity, plumbing, and conventional society. Yet even as a boy, Eustace felt drawn towards self-reliance and nature. His parents encouraged outdoor activities. The family went camping, hunted, and learned practical skills. Those early experiences planted something powerful in him. While his siblings grew up and followed traditional career paths, Eustace became increasingly determined to live differently. At just 17 years old, he made a decision that would define his entire life. He walked away from modern society and moved into the Appalachian Mountains. This was not a summer experiment, it was a complete break. He built his own shelter using hand tools and materials from the forest. He hunted his own food, grew vegetables, tanned hides, and learned skills that had largely vanished from mainstream American life. Years passed, and instead of returning to conventional living, he went deeper into it. He rode horseback across America, traveling more than 4,000 miles from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. The journey took 2 years. He slept under the stars, relied on survival skills, and lived in a way that seemed transported from another century. People who met him were astonished by his knowledge and dedication. In 1987, he purchased nearly 1,000 acres of mountain land in North Carolina. He named it Turtle Island Preserve. This land would become his legacy. It was not merely a homestead, it was a living classroom. At Turtle Island Preserve, Eustace began offering educational programs that taught blacksmithing, hide tanning, animal tracking, primitive shelter construction, and countless other traditional skills. Schools brought students to learn history by living it. Adults arrived seeking reconnection with nature and simplicity. Over time, Turtle Island Preserve grew into a respected center for environmental education and traditional knowledge. Thousands of people passed through its gates. For Eustace, it was proof that the old ways still mattered. Then came television. In 2012, the History Channel premiered Mountain Men, a reality series following individuals who lived off the grid and relied on their skills to survive. Eustace quickly became one of its most recognizable figures. Alongside his close friend, Preston Roberts, he demonstrated craftsmanship, patience, and an unwavering commitment to his beliefs. Viewers were captivated. In a world dominated by smartphones and suburban routines, Eustace represented something rare: freedom. He appeared immune to the stress and complexity of modern life. But fame has consequences. The same visibility that made him beloved also drew attention from authorities. For decades, he had operated quietly in the mountains. Now, inspectors and officials began examining Turtle Island Preserve more closely. When inspectors arrived, they saw more than charming log cabins and primitive structures. They saw violations. Over 20 buildings had been constructed without permits.
There were concerns about fire safety, sanitation, structural integrity, and electrical systems. Because the preserve hosted paying guests and school groups, the standards applied were far stricter than those for private use. From Eustace's perspective, he was living and teaching as Americans had for centuries before building codes existed. From the government's perspective, he was operating a public facility that did not meet safety regulations. In 2012 and 2013, authorities ordered Turtle Island Preserve closed to visitors until violations were addressed. The closure was devastating. The preserve was his home, his livelihood, and his life's mission. Without programs, there was no income. Without students, there was no educational purpose. As legal pressure mounted, neighbor disputes added fuel to the fire. In December 2012, Eustace Conway was arrested for second-degree trespassing following a conflict with a neighbor who accused him of crossing onto her property and blocking a gate. The charges were eventually dismissed due to insufficient evidence, but the headlines had already damaged his reputation. While dealing with inspections and criminal accusations, an older legal issue resurfaced. In 2005, a woman named Kimberly Baker had been injured during a slingshot demonstration at Turtle Island Preserve, resulting in the loss of her eyesight. A lawsuit followed, and in 2009, a settlement of $75,000 was reached. Later reports indicated disputes regarding settlement payments, adding further strain to an already overwhelming situation. The controversy over building codes sparked statewide debate. Supporters argued that primitive educational camps like Turtle Island Preserve should not be forced to comply with the same regulations as suburban buildings. They saw the crackdown as government overreach and an attack on traditional living. Critics argued that safety standards exist for good reason, particularly when children and paying guests are involved. In response to public pressure, the North Carolina General Assembly passed House Bill 774 in 2013, creating exemptions for certain primitive camps from modern building standards. Supporters viewed this as a victory for Eustace Conway and his way of life. However, the law did not erase all challenges. He still had to cooperate with inspectors, modify structures, and navigate legal processes he had long resisted. The years of fighting in courtrooms took a toll. Friends noticed he seemed worn down in ways that physical labor had never had. Surviving harsh winters had been simpler than navigating legal systems and bureaucratic requirements. Then came a personal heartbreak that changed him deeply. In 2017, his closest friend and longtime partner on Mountain Men, Preston Roberts, passed away from cancer. Their friendship had been central both to the show and to life at Turtle Island Preserve. Losing someone who truly understood his philosophy left a profound emptiness. As time passed, aging also began to slow him down. Decades of hard physical work had left their mark. He appeared less frequently on Mountain Men, partly by choice and partly because the show expanded to include new cast members and storylines. The absence led to speculation among fans, but the truth was simpler. Eustace was focusing more on sustaining his preserve than on television appearances. Today, Eustace Conway remains at Turtle Island, though life looks different from the early days. The preserve continues to operate under modern compliance standards. Programs are smaller, finances remain tight, and younger apprentices assist in daily operations. These younger individuals represent hope that the knowledge he has preserved will not vanish when he is gone. Money remains a constant concern. Running an educational preserve requires funding, maintenance, and administrative effort. The legal battles left financial scars that took years to manage. Donations, program fees, and occasional media work help keep the dream alive. Public opinion about Eustace Conway remains divided. Some see him as a hero who defended traditional knowledge against excessive regulation. Others view him as stubborn, someone who resisted safety standards until forced to comply. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. What is undeniable is his commitment. At 17, he chose a path few would dare to take. Through forests and courtrooms, fame and controversy, triumph and loss, he stayed on it. The future of Turtle Island Preserve remains uncertain. No one knows what will happen when Eustace is no longer there to lead it. Will apprentices carry on the mission? Will the land be preserved or developed? Those questions remain unanswered. For now, he continues, slower perhaps, more reflective, but still teaching, still forging metal in the blacksmith shop, still walking the land that shaped his life. His story reveals something powerful about the tension between freedom and regulation, tradition and modernity. Living by your beliefs in today's world often comes with a price. For Eustace Conway, that price included legal battles, financial strain, public scrutiny, and personal loss. Yet despite everything, he never fully abandoned his principles. He adapted where necessary, compromised when required, but remained rooted in the values that drove him into the mountains as a teenager. He is no longer just the mountain man viewers first met on Mountain Men. He is a symbol of the complicated reality of trying to preserve the past within the structure of the present. Piece by piece, minute by minute, that is how he still lives. And whether admired or criticized, Eustace